Welcome to part 4 of our series Hatching with Broody Hens, and these are some of Uno's chicks. These are some of Taffy's chicks, and in this episode we're going to be looking at how we managed to achieve this integration, as well as any adjustments we had to make in the first few days of the chicks' lives. Welcome to English Country Life. My name's Fiona, and together with my lovely husband Hugh, we run a homestead small holding here in Lincolnshire in the UK. Now this is Uno's coop. It's an Astera wagon, and actually we think this is almost perfect as a brood coop. You actually would be hard pushed to find anything else on the market which suits a broody hen and her chicks. But even so, for the first couple of days, we've had to make a couple of adaptations to it to make life easier for the chicks. So what have we done? Well, the first thing we've done is we've added an extra ramp at the front. And why have we done that? Well, actually the ramp that comes with the coop gives quite a high lip. It's about 1.5 inches between the ramp and the door. So those chicks at day 1, day 2 find it difficult to navigate over and climb over into the coop. So the extra ramp just brings the door and the ramp closer together, and the chicks can just waddle in the way that they do. That's how it goes, just like that. What you might also notice is there's some bricks either side of the ramp too, and that just means that that gap between the two ramps is actually blocked up so the chicks don't get stuck underneath and get confused. The second adaptation we've made to the coop just for a few days is to actually block up the hole underneath, and that's because to begin with, all of the navigation the chicks have got are via sound, so they're following the specific calls of Uno, and she's making a low booming sound and the chicks follow that around. And when she goes into the coop to sleep at night, if the underside of the coop wasn't blocked up, the chicks could just wander underneath and get as close to where she is and sit underneath the coop. They can very quickly succumb to hypothermia doing that. So the best thing to do is block it up, and then we have a comedy exercise each night to kind of herd little chicks who haven't quite found the door round to the front and then up the ramp. And they really are just kind of running around trying to find where the noise is coming from, and we kind of herd them along a little bit and managed to get them inside the coop. So those are the adaptations to this coop, but that's only for a few days, because after a few days they know where the door is, they know how to get in. Feeders are something we've had to think about very, very carefully. Now when we only have adult chickens, this is their main feeder. This is a treadle feeder, and there's a few problems with this for chicks. The first one is to actually open it, you've got to have an adult hen or a much older chick, say about 12 weeks, stand on the treadle to open the lid, and clearly a tiny chick can't do that, so they're going to be reliant on Uno standing on this treadle to open the lid. Then you've got the problem that the distance from the treadle to the hopper to get into the food is actually really too big for those tiny chicks. So they can't use this for the first few weeks. But if they did manage to actually jump into the hopper to get food, that then comes with another problem, because if Uno steps off the plate, lid snaps down, chicks actually get stuck inside, and in a worst case scenario that lid snaps down on a chick itself and we have a crush fatality. So these are completely unsuitable for the young chicks. What we do instead for the first few weeks of the chicks' lives is we use these green hat feeders, and they've got this rain protection with this green header, and then the chicks can actually get to the food really, really easily just by leaning in. There's a very small distance from the floor to the hopper itself, and I'm hoping Uno is actually going to demonstrate for me. There you go, chicks are very happy. So what do we do with the treadle feeders while we have Uno and the chicks? Well, the treadle feeder actually has 3 settings. So this is fully closed. It's got this training setting where the lid can open a little bit and the treadle moves very, very slightly. And then there is a fully open setting that you can put it on where the lid doesn't move at all and the treadle doesn't move at all. Now that's not the setting we use. What we do instead is we put it on the training setting, so there is a little bit of movement. And why do we do that? Well, that means as the chicks grow and they get heavier, the treadle starts to move very, very slightly until they fully open it. And that means they get used to the movement, so they're not scared of it, and it becomes very handy. There's absolutely no risk to chicks at all with the lid coming down and harming them. So that works really, really well. Now, the only problem with these hoppers is we can't leave them like that at night because that could attract rodents. So we fully close them at night, but only when the chicks have gone to bed. Drinkers are something we really do need to consider with the chicks, because this is an example of one of the drinkers we provide the adults, and it's got quite a high lip there, and it's got quite a deep water reservoir, and that can be a drowning risk for the chicks. So what we do instead is we provide lots of these. These are 1.5 litre drinkers, so they've got a small lip and a shallow reservoir, and the Broody hens will take their chicks to these drinkers out of preference, and we've got lots of them dotted around, and we make sure they're beside the green hat feeders too. And we've never seen one of the Broody hens take their chicks to these larger adult drinkers until they're at least 6 or 7 weeks old, where they're more than capable of coping with them. So that's really quite interesting, because the Broody hen is really intelligent. One of the key things for us with chicks in the field is that we need to reduce the risks of rodents coming into the area. And how do we do that? Well, the feeders and the drinkers are the main attractant, but rodents are most active at night. So what we need to do is basically fully close the treadle feeders, which we do as soon as Uno and the chicks go to bed, because we can't do it before, because obviously the lid coming down could be an issue for them. We also put the open feeders away at that point, and they go into the feed bin, so they're out of sight, out of mind. And the drinkers, we actually empty those too. Now that gives us the advantage that the next morning the chickens always have clean, fresh drinking water, and it does vastly reduce the amount of rodents which could potentially be attracted to the area. But that gives us another problem, because you might notice on the front of Uno's coop she's got an auto opener, and we don't want the door to automatically open, because if Uno and the chicks come out when the treadle feeder particularly is still closed, she stands on the treadle, there is a risk that the chicks can actually get crushed by the lid. So we have to set all of these auto openers to manual and be up at a reasonable hour, so that we can open the treadle feeders, get the open feeders out of the feed bin, put clean fresh water in the drinkers, and then let Uno and the chicks out into the field for the day. So how do we get Uno and the chicks out with a flock at large? Well, the first thing we do is we leave them in the area surrounded with the debris netting for at least 2 days, if not longer. For the first day, to be honest, the chicks are exhausted. They've spent up to 24 hours trying to get out of the egg, and that's an exhausting process for a little chick. So we just need to make sure that they have recovered from that entire process. What we then do is we wait until we see the weakest of the chicks have full mobility. Now, that could be 2 days, it could be 6 days, but either way they're completely safe in their area with the debris netting. In reality, with Uno, within 2 days all of her chicks were fully mobile and running around like you wouldn't believe. So we were able to take the debris netting away. And we do that in late evening, just before roosting, probably about an hour before. And the reason for that is that it gives us a fallback plan. So there's only an hour at which Uno and the chicks are out with the other hens, and we can keep an eye to make sure there's no problems. Now, we do have a very docile breed in the Buff Orpingtons, and the other chickens that we keep are also very docile, so we never really expect any problems. But it's always good to be aware, just to be on the safe side, because you never know, the unexpected can happen, and we've always got a fallback plan, and that for us is putting the debris netting back round her area so her and her chicks are safe just for a little bit longer. Now, how does it actually work? For us, it's having a lot of space is very, very important. And the reason for that is, think of the flock as the solar system. So the core members are at the centre, like the sun. And the Broody hen with the chicks will start way out on the periphery, like the mini planet Pluto, a long distance, kind of wandering around the flock on the outside. And as the weeks go on, the chicks get bigger and they become more used to the flock, and the flock becomes more used to them. They'll gradually get closer and closer to the sun, till eventually they're Mercury, and finally they'll be part of the core flock itself. What surprised us this time with the integration is that we have Jellybean and Uno spending a lot of time in the same area together. Now Jellybean actually hatched her chicks on exactly the same day as Uno, but normally broody hens will keep their distance and keep quite a way apart. With Jellybean and Uno, they have spent a lot of time in the same area. Not necessarily getting incredibly close to each other, maybe 1 metre, 2 metres, but the chicks run between both broody hens, and it's really lovely to see. There's no animosity, no issues, and it just seems to work. As you can see, Uno is out and about with her chicks and she is fully integrated with the flock. Come back in a few weeks' time where we'll be looking at the development of the chicks as they grow. If you have liked this content, take a moment and give us a thumbs up down below. If you're not already a subscriber to the channel, hit subscribe and the bell icon and you'll get to know of every new video as soon as it goes live, and that's a completely free service. If you've got a question for us, leave it in the comment section and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. But for now, thanks for watching and we look forward to seeing you next time.